Hello, this is a video called How to Think. One identity of value progression is attached to, is coming while already as, and while becoming more than, while already being. In other words, is coming to, from, as, while it is as each identity of value, while it is with and for them, more and more. For where its complete identity connects with our care towards prayer per science value that was criminally re-engineered before modern nations' religions. Thank God for them. Now, God, I'm using this the way we have to change it to be used as a variable, where we're not sure if we're right or wrong about the identity of forever, which is a scientific variable too, which is one of the things, for example, as all things are at the same time, forever nature. Sequence nature is also one of the things that all temporary / lasting positive or negative is in relationship to forever's identity of value progression. Its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that is forever's identity. Now, there's a science to this, and it requires us to make a name for what we think is this. And we know, but we're communicating it. Also, we have to communicate it in relation distinctly and non-distinctly in relationship to these 5 bonded identities of sequence nature. Now, this is relationship to, this is the cipher of what is with and as the value of when you see semi-ancient, late semi-ancient art depicting Jesus Christ or with the halo behind someone in A and W. This is not for the physical delusions that have been maintained, the practicality of religions. Thank God for them, because they did counter control. This is to understand the science, a method of logic, where and as and how we have recorded each modern nation from an already tactically denatured native base. See, this ancient republic was revealed when everyone was native pure. Everyone. And this they revealed even the sounds have an identity of relationship to themselves as a group value. As Islam has Arabic as a group value. Because the sounds in the languages the ancients revealed, these sounds, these 26 sounds have an identity of relationship to itself, and have the value that is hyper positive or negative. But it is positive because it is the same way we are, distinctly and non-distinctly from the rest of space nature, no living earth nature, with no criminal foreign influences, and then treatments are positive that way. Hear many pray. So the religions have, everyone is victim predators, only having come through campuses that are also victims. Now that couples everyone needing to blame things where correlation can't answer questions properly. Simple questions like, how was slavery left entrenched in the North and South if we won the American Revolution? The Revolutionary War ended. The revolution just started, which is still where humanity is in an identity of negative value nature progression. Each nation is sickly through criminal foreign influences hurt, specifically designed to perpetually keep everyone only capable of countering it by blaming it. It's not sourced by one, but it's fluid through each. So it uses the identity of any one individually and grouped in together. That's what's behind wars. See, but we don't have free speech. And the longer you try to put these simple proofs of it that are really true always, not deny exceptions, not having that with lies attached to it, valued having had it attached to it, that's what evolves. Now, this is a nature of prayer is in relationship to the science of the sciences. The sciences not only the share, but of these five identities of sequence nature. Because when they are positive simultaneously, it creates positive value nature progressions, action natures. It reveals the fruits and gifts of evolution. This is evolution's course. It's the nature beyond us that is still within our control. This surges through all things. This is smaller than small, while it is bigger than bigger. While it is the extent of all parts, individually, all the identities of value progression, individually grouped and together. These are three natures of volume that only increase. The soul, and identity. These are and emotions are also, their course is distinctly and non-distinctly onto five identities of sequence nature. A use long, we have all victims that are defenses of Nave reactions to worse than Nave that are also invested self-value, specifically to exploit defenses of that. This is where and how, not money, not whatever, not just to cover up live aggressions. This from internation, criminal foreign influenced, all locations, all states, all areas, all pretending other, as positive treatments, as criminal insidious natures, where positive is a science, and where the science is and how the sciences share an identity. This is about volume science and theory off of what is true always, not denying exceptions, not valuing them haven't been denied. This is about the identity of relativity and then theory off that. This is about the identity ratiocination and that pseudo ratiocination share simultaneously. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a police form. It is recorded also evidences that and how doctors were involved with area crimes, with all the natures of courts originally and still. And where and how, again, this American history, other nations' histories, are bonded subjects. Subjects come with bonded identities of predicate value, individually grouped in together, as increasing identity of the body of the identity of forever. Whole bunch of individual grouped in together, positive or negative, in relationship to its identity of value progression, perfect, and in relationship to here or there, where Earth's difference to its complete identity is our relationship to in the active, where all that is active individually grouped in together. Our planet is most probably closest to the greatest inherent nature or volume of the three subnatures of the identity of Allah, for example. That we're not supposed to agree on the name of that, but grouped we have to agree on at the same time. See, so there's two natures of truth that are simultaneous, and there is this identity of relativity that can't afford theories with physical delusions also having been used worse than pejoratively, used as weapons. They use the identity. This is how identity works. Each cell of each body. They share not only the cells next to them for body of value discernment manifest. I tell it best, boxings. English was revealed to teach this. Nothing is binary that is positive, also positive unto itself. And nothing is binary that is complete. That is not Trinity. In other words, to teach this, we'll examine the as in this, in these five. To, from, as, with, and for. That as is with two identities of possession on both sides of it. And the value of that is important. Distinctly and non-distinctly, onto these five identities of sequence nature, three that we are in the control of. As the order to physics, as the order to metaphysics, and as the order to identity, as the nature of volume simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, in relationship to this, the phenomenon of the way. This one identity of forever is self-generating and wants, in other words, it's a system that needs. We would normally value this because per the system that really uses evolution, uses the ground's identity, its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that. For example, progressively, what was forced here with the zoning laws, which are to make people safe and healthy, originally and still, also this is a fact treatment nature racketeering. So they also had this worse than racketeering. So they also had this involved with all these crazy laws. Before cars, before our founding parents were even born, and the same thing in other nations. There were already all kinds of crazy laws controlled what anyone could say, and even in relationship to slavery. Again, this is against it. They put color in there specifically to keep through time everyone invested, incapable of defending their roles with everyone, with logic. And so this is also with psychology originally and still. Simultaneously, criminally foreign influence, delusions wrought, and lie progressions from databases. Now then they have to pretend other, also because in the other nations they're doing the same thing. But also they're the only ones that are involved with all the unrealized and unknown logistics, but by the people in relationship to the people who are the only counters to things like war, only capable of being because of individually grouped in together. Each modern nation was fit onto a semi-ancient trap that came since before modern nations' messengers. Thank God for them. Thank God for them. For example, Jesus Christ, his roles with the science of preservation of English, all parts of English about this, the same thing that math is about. But this is a different value program. These are abridged value nature systems that we were forced to entertain as pseudo-positive. They backed everyone into identities of titles and jobs and methods of countering what left everyone forsaken. No one was watching. This prevents the science of positive that is not criminal insidiousness nature from demonstrating why and how there are those two positives that need to be discerned distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and sequentially, originally and still. This is how logic works. The identity of relativity is to, from, as, with, and for all things at once. Already we are positive temporary. But see, especially criminally legalized, and self-valued criminally legalized, victim modern nations that was only allowed to be able to fathom themselves, ourselves, blaming the real causes of it on other things other than themselves, time, reasons, not by accident. Hundreds of nations forcing each other at once in the only context where we can have counters to avert crazy wars and things used to maintain what is manifest all locations, areas, and states, all standing criminal and seditious nature self-value, all valuing how there is the illusion of overt criminal enterprises being distinct, how there is the illusion of transnational gangs being distinct, of militaries being distinct. The identity is fluent through modern nations that is maintenance to its means to stay. The identity of the sciences valued as victims for what is in maintained interlocations, areas, and states. Roles with a racketeering method worse than war crimes, worse than racketeering, bonded onto ground. Since before made Native Americans blame other things other than themselves for all that, juxtaposed with it. So while they're blaming it on the right things, everyone was missing how the real target was their defenses of blaming it on the wrong things at the same time. And then defending that. Also the real target. Hello, Renee. So this is about once in the beginning, before the beginning, there was identity of value progression perfect. And then with the beginning of physics, that perfection never went away. The phenomenon of exceptions and of exception nature in relationship to that is Earth's distinct and non-distinct relationship to the rest of space nature. Where we can be shown this identity of value progression, where and how it can be positive, also positive onto itself completely, with the rest of the positions of its complete identity of value progression. So how could one identity have three identities? Because it has an identity of relationship to three subnatures of volume: inherent, active, and progressive. So this is simultaneously bigger than and smaller than the active, temporary, already generated from an identity from before that, while being this, and while being the value of its progressive value, not just now, and only the extent of it is debatable in the future. See, but we have this offensively worse than obfuscated. This is where the soul, where identity, these words have been conformed to racketeering methods and natures and involvements with the branches of government individually grouped in together, used remotely since before digital uses of that word. This is a semi-ancient database relationship, concentrated values of Campus Martius systems, the ancient republics, original method, by the identity of value progression we're not supposed to agree on the name of. For sophistication. Simultaneously, we are supposed to for communications, and not just individually, grouped and together. And we're supposed to make sure that's positive to the order of finite, because we're led by what is true always, not denying exceptions. So they're preventing anyone from doing business. They want to set up a business with integrity. So they pretend other by having offensively have people with narratives. Okay, we want to set up a business, so we're gonna do this. So this is how they tell us to do it. Since founding, we had to be able to demonstrate. See, we had long to value. We lost on too many significant fronts. Each modern nation simultaneously, non-distinctly too, and sickly distinctly, effectively having kept non-distinctly from being discerned. Not one has learned. So there is the peak of perfection, criminally foreign influenced, and self-value that way. In other words, you can't legalize criminal and ceaseless nature. We have to just declare. So we have to help everyone. We have to help our branches of government, each individually grouped together, understanding we have to do it this way, unceasingly, increasingly. And we reveal means that were unfathomable, but we have to also reveal put it even temporary, even hyper, because below the foundation of modern nations, there is already a tactically denatured identity of ground, identity of relationship to itself, which is the identity of value progression that will only stay perfect or force our temporary difference, where we can have the phenomenon of temporary positive that can also be temporary, is also temporary lasting positive, because while we are temporary positive automatically, we are a quality of diffusion that is positive or negative. It is. See, now we're Lethem Hadith. The only reason it's self-valued now too is because this method that is a maintenance to all locations, areas, and states, fighting to defend natures of positive treatments as criminal and ceaseless nature that are involved with in all locations, areas, and states, simultaneously prevented logic and leadership voice and scientific and answers for science's questions. Anything but through criminal foreign influence. And who points that out has the locations, areas, and states stack more and more database racketeering influences, roles. This is how we have the identity of volume. The identity of value we are as an identity of volume. Its identity of relationship to itself and the value of that. Like I learned on a television show back in the day. Nitroglycerin. It could be nitro is not a good example because nitroglycerin can't be maybe evolution. Where everything came from, not nothing. Everything came from from forever's identity, from its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that, which became more and more. Three identities of volume that are inseparable from themselves. distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously. And from our perspective, two dimensions, I mean, not dimensions, two identities of sequence nature further. And so, in summary of the first part of the Old Testament, we come up to the part where Adam and Eve, we come up to the part where it says, all you have to understand is read up to here. I believe it's after Adam and Eve, which is never been told in the way it tells it about the sciences, how they share an identity. Right up in the front, the first sequence part of the Quran. It says all you have to do is understand up to here. Now, see, then there's Adam and Eve in the tree of knowledge. Again, we'll come to this, and how people take the speak about positive from the backside, out of sequence of the subjects of books, not just but the subject of the Old Testament and the sequence of it. That's why the Old Testament also tells we're supposed to come and speak about the sequence that came before, where it starts, where this identity of value progression is the identity of algebra, is the identity of the Trinity and of Allah at the same time. At the same time, increasingly, while it is that, is increasing the value of the other names. Whereas, because it's also exception and exception nature itself. Anything that we can discern individually grouped it together has two identities of value progression on both sides of it that are simultaneously smaller than, bigger than, and as the identity of value progression. Every identity of value progression has this: to, from, as, with, and for itself. Where now we are, where and how we are value. It is semi-nature three ways. Manifest, because of how it is one identity of relationship onto three semi-natures, increasing ways. How it is one way distinctly onto its inherent nature of volume, its complete identities, that simultaneously makes a bonded, distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous relationship to the active part, to the active identity of volume, and to the progressive identity of volume. It is distinctly from its inherent. So there are three parts of the identity of forever. And see, this is debatable. What is not debatable is that and how there's the value to the order of the finite, smaller than the smallest thing, but as the value to the order that unfolds from that, which is positive or negative onto, and as each self, as this forever nature making more forever nature that is positive or negative to itself. Same way we have experience that is positive or negative unceasingly for the perfection of our complete Trinity's relationship to that, as the complete nature of volume we are, simultaneously as a semi-nature in relationship to why and how we are group, area, sexes, ages, grouped, species bond, species part simultaneously, species value increase or not. This is positive or negative onto 5 identities of sequence nature simultaneously, sequentially, simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and sequentially per another identity of sequential of sequence nature further. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel of Anthony Wall, youtube.com/user/Romulus Wall. And this is Romulus Decipher too. So Adam is the subject, Eve is the verb. You have this is a subject about where, in other words, negative value nature progressions, acts of nature are going to be caused one way, and positive value nature progressions, acts of nature are going to be caused another way. And to understand this, see, we have to also understand how criminal assistance nature makes positive value nature progressions, acts of nature's values them invested as pseudo-positive for the very defenses of those fact-cheaping nature styles. So we have to do this as a species using pantheism as a religion that is not use faith at all. We don't need to. Science reveals, though, too. We have the identity of the sciences. We have the identity of the religions used as weapons by people using identity of the ground in collusion with what uses from off the value of all points of education, all locations, all areas and states, and on off database relationships, on off the science relationships, and on off database relationships in juxtaposed ways, bonded methodically by and as this human fact-cheaping nature, worse than war crimes racketeering method, but a simple racketeering method, preventing free speech, preventing logic. And this is also, overtly identity racketeering, identity thefts, frauds, and racketeering through the only identity of individually grouped and together in positions allowed to counter such, not by accident. This is evil. This is sequence racketeering. All kinds of ways. So we have to counter how the branches of government originally together and grouped in together were manifest as liars to themselves and others, and uses of that. This is what forgiveness is about. They have no forgiveness. They're pretending, oh, if we see a crime, we go like this, because they're making up fake recorded things, but they already did that. They're already sequence racketeering. They've already been making up fake recorded things, pretending to perceive things further and further. Now they have conspiracy theories that a whole bunch of nations like Russia and America, we have stewards here and there that have psychology racketeering, whole bunch of nations at the same time, to keep their roles with justice racketeering, with that physical delusions. They carry they carry all the identities of real good medicine, real good health care, further and further as standing criminalization, exploitations of that off campuses, further and further on off campuses. From off them, everyone wants to. They know that this is each age of fact-cheaping nature wants to be positive out of negative. The perfect world's forsaken, not just worse than forsaken. This is where they have collusion, even though they didn't physically do it. For that reasons, they're used remotely. The overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, and the branches of government, and the military, and the other nations' militaries, and all private, all that in collusion, and collusion with worse. That's how it's. I'm not just saying, oh, it's fluent through our nations. It's not sourced by one, but it's fluent through each. That's real. That's what John F. Kennedy said. There was a conspiracy against this nation. See, now you have to be able to address. We have all kinds of natures of courts already invested to hiding their already invested racketeering with evidences, real sick uses of people, their positions, with areas crimes. So we have to address how they are victims, but victim predators. They won't let us do this because they're secret. They use methods like forging names and switching names, pretending things with the other branches, individually grouped it together, and their family members maintain victim predators. Invested to all kinds of evidential racketeering, mail crimes, wire crimes, and all that's manifest that having been kept used for what then they had to hide in roles with in the World Trade Center attack and with their investigators. So they relied upon crime methods they have, like forcing people to pretend they didn't realize real sick things they confessed and recorded, actually recorded. Because if interbranch is criminally foreign influenced by the same thing, the private, the overt criminal enterprises are. That's all used remotely because they're using identity. They're using the identity of positive treatments when they make, you have to, everyone's victim had to go keep doing business, start doing business. America had no strength. Not only we had no strength, all strength was possessed by what in each nation individually grouped it together, shoots and dies, from a tactically denatured base, which human nature, when it's positive, also positive itself, came, and the republic came from one where everyone valued each other as native pure, before archetypal racketeering made self-defended perfection. That is where evolution comes from, or it demonstrates the loss of where it was coming from. Leaf of Hadith, force-based nature transfer, which would automatically not be self-valued, like with NASA. They'll say, oh, well, it's the money would. No. And with, what's his name? I forgot the name. Tesla. Or that's not the name of the guy. But see, I always wanted to get into that too. I don't know. What is that? Electricity. You have to. I want to make our school do that because with the ancient gaming system and with Little Rap Guy and friends. But in other words, you spin a magnet around a coil, and electricity generated. But this, before we can do modern nations healed, we have to deal with the tactically denatured identity of the ground's identity of relationship to itself. Because it has a relationship to what only works from the zenith. Perfection. Its identity of relationship to itself. Logic not criminally foreign influenced. So we have predators with names like, what's his name? Albert Einstein. The identity of relativity exists. All the far-fists. So we're not supposed to agree on the name. And where we are supposed to simultaneously, obviously, for organization, we're supposed to do that as a nature that's watching our nature. because it's where nature, where and as and how. Nature is nature, nature is value, and value is nature simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and sequentially and simultaneously with the Trinity there, and with the value of that further, and with the value of that to its complete self, as we'll see. Boxings. Because so this is the identity of conjunction slash S. And the slash is Trinity, positive or negative, as temporary positive, where we are quality of diffusion, as forevers, the way it is, its own identity of volume, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously, while it is three semi-natures of itself, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously increasing value, and the value of that, increasing the value of that, which is manifest also sequentially in demonstration to us of the pathology of perception proper, and of its formally forbid free speech, freedom from torture, freedom from identity thefts, freedom from identity racketeering, freedom from murder even. We have the locations, areas, and states recorded, maintained, where the only counters to unfathomed things like needs for war normalized, where our species could have and would have rather had evolution's fruits and gifts revealed. The identity of the ground's tactically denatured identity of relationship to our quality of fact achieving nature, then filtered also now filtered through all kinds of value nature systems, others forced here, there, everywhere, forced blame, invested, no one can fathom what to do now. Unless everyone knows, is just shown how to speak, what they can fathom now. But there has to be simultaneously realizing the maintenance, how it is maintained, that we have to counter and demonstrate and allowed to be able to speak about, recorded, how they keep each identity of the ground, location and member of them, and person that walks on off their locations. First, and with that simultaneously, how they kept and keep each identity of the sciences, of the campuses, all victims' self-valued roles with what keeps that all database relationships private too. And overt criminal enterprises needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite lies, active lies, progressive lies, identity thefts, frauds, and racketeering roles against people differentially, and motivations in relation you all don't realize. It's not, everyone has things they say, like convictions they have to make that couldn't be claimed as the law, and the law does that. That's what, because precedents and statutes are criminally foreign influence delusions wrought with the bar simultaneously. For example, all private, especially medical racketeering through our nations. This has already invested the identities of the military to roles with pathology of VA infrastructure. The roles with that simultaneously, where people are making positive treatments. We have elderly homes. Where's the food going to come out? How are they going to afford the food? The companies that are doing it. They backed everyone into victim reactions and justifications of them that were never fathomed. The areas where there are shootings, there's no justifications of that, but it's recorded tied to this racketeering method from off the ground of the value of our education and quality of fact sheet nature, and then on off campuses and database relationships and layers. That means on off the stewards, the relationships and the words and the value treatments of the stewards. Now they need to keep value treatments offensively self-valued by everybody. Abridged constitution, self-valued. Abridged sciences, everyone in fake integrity. Theater only let speak, or and they have no means to justify that. But you just what other people tell them. Now, this is how through administrations they are hurting each age of fact sheet nature sickly distinctly as well. So effectively, methodically, to have invested everyone having kept how non-distinctly and from how simultaneously self-valued, not even discerned, self-valued, obfuscated by the people draping themselves in flags, not by accident. Punks. Okay. So, please, let's get ready for boxing. Someone try to find this word we have to. We're going to mean stack, but we have to have someone who's not going to be doing something. We have to have this who will believe in it for their area. And I'll speak. We'll set up right there. Now we'll have the I want to do it for New York though. So with the Burroughs book, but that's different. But it's the same thing though. We claim the bottom, forsaken. We build leap down. We claim like this is simultaneously peripheral. We have to understand sickly distinctly, simultaneously, how modern nation is self-defeating in relationship to our fact-treating nature. Way worse than that. Defenses of that too, as fact-treating nature. It is incapable of doing anything but self-valuing the identities of each of the sciences, criminally foreign influence various ways. Their fact treatments. Delusions wrought various ways. Their fact treatments. Defenses of that various ways. Those already styles. Uses of the name. What's his name? The guy with relativity theory of relativity. This is the identity of relativity. Everything it is as, everything that is as itself has coming to and from it what is with and for it at the same time. For it as a positive or negative identity of relationship to itself, as its identity of volume, and its identity of volume's relationship to itself. It has the value of that, distinctly and not distinctly as Earth's. Distinct and non-distinct relationship to the three semi-natures of forever's one identity. And it's one identity of relationship to those three semi-natures, distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously, and sequentially. Three ways. Just three ways, increasingly. Increasing in a way that's making more and more identities of Trinity nature, where nature is value and value is nature simultaneously. Mic drop. Thank you. 49 minutes.